Hello, everyone. Welcome to Snap Take. Happy Elsa season. It is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone, and the last day of the previous season brought with it three brand new meta decks. We're going to take a look at W's Guardians, Rabbit Sweet Surfer Loki, and a move deck that went 11-1 in Gold and Infinity Conquest. That's absolutely nuts. We're going to look at these three brand new meta decks and discuss, do they fit Elsa Bloodstone into them? Let's get started. Before we do though, please hit that subscribe button. It's completely free to you. It really helps the channel out. We bring you at least two. Today is three. Yesterday was like 12 brand new decks that work for the Marvel Snap meta every single weekday here on this channel. All we ask you to do is please subscribe, like, comment, help us out, help us with that YouTube algorithm. We'd appreciate it. In addition, we do the biggest giveaway in all of Marvel Snap every single month. We are looking for Sergio, who won on Twitter. Check your DMs over on Twitter, Sergio. And we're looking for Remashov Games and Doyle, two winners from our YouTube giveaway of season passes. If they don't answer me by, let's say, Friday, we'll give away these three season passes again. So be ready, be commenting, and you can be entered to win if these people don't claim it. If you are one of these people, please reach out in the email address in the About Us section of this YouTube channel. We believe in deck credits here. People put work into these, and so they deserve credit. W has yet another completely original deck that he is dominating with. W finished the previous season of Marvel Snap in the top 100 players, with seemingly like 10 million player, and we know hundreds of thousands of people that get to Infinite. W being in the top 100 is quite the feat. Congrats to W, and he did it with the most off-meta weird deck. We're going to talk about that one. You can follow W on the stuff you see on the screen. Rabbit Sweet is a Japanese tournament grinder at Rabbit Sweet Hearthstone on Twitter, and he won a weekly Japanese tournament called the Weekly Snap Cup with a really cool Surfer Loki deck. We're going to take a look at that. And finally, Nick, who I just really met, it goes by Ratsu, is on like all your favorite Snap players follow him. He has this incredible pure move deck that looks like it's just going to be fun, but went 11-1 in Conquest and has reached about top 200 on ladder. This deck is sick. I barely had time to test it, but in early testing, I am in love. All right, our Guardians of the Galaxy version W top 100 deck is sick. It is fundamentally doing the same thing as a Doomwave deck. This is ultimately, at its core, very similar to that style deck, where it wins a location with Storm, uses Nebula and Drax to make sure you get that location, has Claw and Doom to really lock it up, and then Gamora and Alioth win another location. Iron Lad is a backup to all of these game plans, and everything else is just trying to put stats on the board and spread them. Mobius is here largely as protection for opposing Mobius Wave and for all those nasty locations. Everything else should be relatively self-explanatory. Medusa is glorious, glorious stats. I'm going to need to test with this more. If it's doing a decent job filling lanes, I don't think it is. Medusa could be Elsa because the second you fill a lane, that's the same stats, right? Like that's a 2-5 from Elsa right there. I don't think this does a good enough job at filling lanes. Although going something like Nebula into Medusa into Mr. Fantastic into Jeff and Mobius is going to be like phenomenal, right? Like that's a 2-6 Jeff if you were doing that and Medusa were replacing, which is again like just the same stats as Medusa. So maybe Medusa's just better because you have Storm. Okay, let's keep going. Nebula is really good, but could be Sunspot if you must. It's really important to get opponents to play where you want in this deck because of the Guardians, because of Drax and Gamora, and also because Nebula gets really big in that Storm lane. It makes it hard to contest. So with that given, this is like the most important Nebula deck around, so please make sure you're trying Nebula in this if you can. Nebula is one of the best cards in Snap, although it is possible that Elsa chases Nebula out of the meta a little bit again. Jeff can be Nightcrawler, basically. Jeff's main use here is you're trying to get into a Storm lane. Nightcrawler does that just fine. Less power, though, which sucks. Oops, wrong way. You need Alioth, but if you really must, you can try Leader. You should have priority with this deck, so if you're leadering their Alioth, that should win you that lane most of the time. Mobius can be Luke Cage. I don't love that. You don't super need Mobius. Again, none of the The locations that are bad for you can be taken care of by Storm, and like we're not worried about stuff like Iceman, right? So this is just to like counter their Mobius if they're running things like Zabu, if they're running things like Beast. Mobius is just for that. So he's good, but not like 1,000% necessary. Luke does a lot because there's evolutionary love. Iron Lad can be Jubilee. Iron Lad and Jubilee is a reasonably clean switch here. And finally, if you're just missing a bunch of cards and need something extra, try Juggernaut. Juggernaut's always good with the Storm. Also good is the much less popular Stegron, because you probably don't have Stegron if you don't have these cards, right? All right. Location Lockdown and Big Stats is the name of the game here. So Nebula, and then the order of plays is Mobius, Jeff, Medusa. I might actually, having finally like barely tried this, put Medusa up a little bit, but it's those three in some order. Um, Turn 3, Storm on Jeff or Medusa. Excuse me, that should be Nebula or Medusa. You play Storm on that Nebula, and you're very likely to win that lane. Turn 4 is almost always Drax on that Storm lane if you can. If you are not really worried about the Storm lane, let's say you've got a Nebula, you've got the potential for a Claw next turn, you can always try just dropping Mr. Fantastic and spreading that power out a little bit. If you've locked up that Storm lane, if you've locked up a lane already, you Gamora wherever you think they're going to play next. And if you haven't, you Claw to win that lane outright. And finally, you finish up wherever you think they're going to play with Alioth to wreck their life or doom. If you really need to go tall and you're way behind and you think they're not going to Alioth for whatever reason, Gamora could be the play, but really almost always it's Alioth or doom. This deck is sweet. It's super straightforward. It's really, really powerful. Props to W for making Guardians a real meta deck again. I think this is going to be really cool. I don't see this getting much worse with the shift in the meta, unless Shadow King starts coming out everywhere to deal with Elsa. That would also harm this deck, which uses Nebula, Drax, and Gamora as cards that gain power. Quick little variant talk. This is 4, 5, 6 hips, always beautiful. We've got Nebula, Medusa, Jeff, Mobius, Alioth, and Iron Lad. These are all glorious hips. None of these are like the hips I run just to run. I think they're great. Again, best Doom. We're gonna get yelled at for Scotty Young. I have this Storm with a gold background. It's absolutely Chef's Kiss beautiful. Big fan of it. Apparently, this Mr. Fantastic is wildly controversial. People think it looks too gross and don't like it. I think Mr. Fantastic, based on his power, should be gross. I still don't have a Claw variant. Heartbreak. This Gamora came with the Nebula Season Pass. I think it's plenty good. Not my favorite thing, but plenty good. And this is a very cool Drax. I don't know when the hell I opened it. It's one of my older variants. Drax doesn't see a whole lot of play. But look, Drax is good, and this is a really cool variant. I especially like this one because like this is Drax from like the Guardians of the Galaxy runs, where he's basically Kratos from God of War, and I think that's pretty cool. All right. Next up is Rabbit Sweets Weekly Snap Cup winner. Remember, this won a Marvel Snap tournament with top Japanese players. If you're willing to use a translator, you are more than welcome to play in this tournament, no matter who you are, no matter where you are. They take place Sunday and Monday, basically every week. Okay, so this deck is really, really cool. It's obviously got the Loki package. It's obviously got the Surfer package, right? Those are the two main things. If you can get that Loki off, and after you get a couple threes before you draw Surfer and then draw Surfer, you're like Coulson and Loki are just stellar. Your collector has gone through the roof. It's really good. But this deck does not need to rely on that at all because it's got lots of other plays. One of the big problems with Surfer, you have to run cards like Sarah, but here you get that extra 3 cost because Snowguard makes 3 costs. So if you have Quinjet out, then you can play Snowguard. That's a 3 and a 2 on 5. And then you can go a 3 and a 3 on 6, and you're all set. You've gotten the same number of 3s as if you had played Sarah. Excuse me, you've gotten one more 3 than if you had played Sarah, which is just absolutely stellar. You've got Forge and Brood because that's just great power. You've got Mobius to try and make that Quinjet thing go off. Rogue to try and make that Quinjet thing go off. These also benefit Coulson. They benefit Loki. They counter Loki, etc. Killmonger and Daken are the part of the deck I'm least sold on here. I get why they're here. Daken is a lot of power, but like a Spider-Man and a Polaris seem just as good to me right now. Maybe even Absorbing Man to copy that Brood in some games just when it happens to come up, I think is probably pretty damn good. Killmonger is nice, but destroying your Quinjet is annoying. What you're basically trying to do with Killmonger is you're trying to like forge Dakin, and then if you get that Killmonger off, you've got a 14 power Dakin. If you Surfer first, you've got a 18 power Dakin. And that's enough to win most lanes. I get it. I just think it's dangerous in this particular deck. All right, Snowguard is really good here, but by the time you see it, it could just be Elsa if you don't have it. Cosmo would also work. Again, you want Snowguard for that turn 5 play as much as anything else. So I'm also obviously good with and Collector and Loki. There is no other card that replaces exactly what this does, but Elsa's a ton of power, so maybe it's better. Mobius can be Luke Cage. Luke Cage is really good here. Again, we're worried about an opponent. We're worried about our opponent's Mobius, so Mobius is here as much to counter that as anything else. It's not super needed. You obviously need Loki, but Dakin can be Spider-Man, Polaris, or Maximus, and you may even just be better off without him in this deck if you're not getting that Forge combo consistently enough. There is something to be said, however, about like if you end up adding Elsa to this deck, you can do something like Quinjet into Collector or Forge, um, into like Brood, and then you can drop sorry, you can go Quinjet into Elsa in one lane, and then you can drop I don't know, Coulson or whatever, and then you can drop Dakin there, and Dakin's gonna get the +3 just like it was a Forge. There's some value there. I'm not in love with that play, to be completely honest, but it is a series of plays you can make. All right, replacement turn by turn. Surfer backs up Loki, who in turn further backs up Surfer. The other play land outside of the one I told you is Quinjet Collector. Loki, if no Surfer. If you don't have Surfer, I really like Loki here. If you go Quinjet Collector, and then you can just still play the 3s as you get them later and have other cheap stuff. Otherwise, you're playing Coulson or Dakin if you have. Turn 4, a 3 and a 1. Snowguard is really good here, especially if you have Quinjet out. You want to make sure that you find space for him. If you drop the Shard here, that's also perfectly fine. Turn 5, a 3 and a 2. If you have the Shard, a 3 and a 1 is fine. And then you just do that, right? And then you drop Brood. You drop Brood and Surfer on the last turn. Or if you need to Killmonger, you drop Killmonger and Surfer, and that wins you the snap. Pretty good. Collector can be replaced with Forge if you're gonna play Brood next, etc. You can also just Collector and Loki on turn 5 fairly often, just fine. You can Collector and Surfer on 5, and then drop Loki and something else on 6, which also works just fine. There's a million different play patterns depending on what you have, what your opponent has. We make a variant look. I have the Spotlight Snowguard. This one's better. I think it fits the character better. I think it's really pretty. I like this Quinjet. I think the other Quinjet might be better for Loki decks, but whatever. At least this one goes well with the Dakin, which is the only Dakin I have is the Season Pass one, just like the Season Pass Loki, which unlike Dakin, which has a hip, is the best Loki. I just bought Hip Brood the other day on Kodo's recommendation. Hi, Kodo. This is the best Mobius. I love this Killmonger. I have the shirtless Coulson, which feels nothing like Coulson, so I'm using a little NES bad guy agent Coulson. The Rogue is adorable. There are better Rogues, but like I don't like Rogue enough as a card to get the best. And this is an unbelievably phenomenal Surfer. Basically, any split on this, and this Surfer is completely freaking gorgeous. Ink gold. Just nice, cool background. Make it pop. Even the regular background, just lovely, lovely card. All right, variant talk done. Hey, what's this? This is more or less how I would run it if I were running Elsa in the deck. Am I sure Elsa's right? No. But I think this is what I would do. I decided to run the Absorbman Brood thing because that lets me basically get 6 power out of Elsa, like guaranteed, more or less. I can go Forge into Brood and then Absorbman, and then leave those lanes free. Play Elsa in the Forge lane, and then whatever I drop in that Brood or Absorbman lane is going to get the extra power, and then I can end the game with the other plays. I felt like I had to keep the Quinjet Snowguard thing. I've got the Loki Collector thing. This is how I would try and play the deck. I know it loses the deck and play, but I don't feel like just Killmonger to kill it, that's consistent enough for me. So this is the way I would run it. Straight up, I don't think Killmonger is really right here. It might the only reason Killmonger stayed in the deck is because Elsa means we're probably going to see a lot more 1-drops. So, but Killmonger even so might be better as in particular Spider-Man, to basically pull something, drop the Spider-Man in that Murder Absorb-Man lane, get the +3 power, and then move itself out. I think this deck is going to be really sweet. This is going to be one of the first decks I try, fair warning. All right, final deck. This is the title deck of the week. I think this deck is unbelievable. I had time to play this, and I absolutely love it. It is running Nebula as a way to like sort of entice your opponent to play in the same lane that you have Craven. You can also play, yeah, basically you want them to play there, you want them to commit there, so you're playing that mid or right, and then you're sort of dropping things in that lane, moving things there where possible, things like Jeff, things like Spider-Man into that lane to try and get the power. If you can, then you're Shuriing and arrowing or visioning. And or you can just like go Hulkbuster, Captain Marvel for a ton of power. And then when you Heimdall, that Craven lane is going to be like 27, 28 power, like Shuri level power. And you've also got like a 16 power vision to move wherever you want. You're basically Alioth proof, and it's completely sick. You move your cards out of where your opponent can do, and like even if they know you're going to move it, you're so much more powerful than they are in that lane. It's completely bonkers. All right, Ghost Spider is way worse as Iron Fist. Ghost Spider is actually important in recent decks of this and the Phoenix Force deck from yesterday, so make sure you keep an eye on that. Jeff can be Nightcrawler here. In some ways, that's even better. Not every way, right? Jeff does the go into locations he shouldn't be able to, but in a lot of ways, it's even better because Nightcrawler fits in your curve better. Nebula is really important here, like because you want to entice people to play where you want. If you can get everyone to like stack up in that lane, in that far right lane because of Nebula, and then you move everything out of there, they just wasted all that power. All right. This is a very cool deck. So Nebula right as far right as you can usually, and then if you can, Craven on Nebula. If you can't, then playing Jeff or Mobius mid is usually my play. Oh, cool. Oopsie. Spider-Man to try and land on Craven, or just drop Jeff here. Again, you can just drop Jeff. You can pull things around here. Turn 4 is Shuri or Captain Marvel. If you Shuri, you play Arrow or Vision. If you Captain Marvel, you drop Hulkbuster and another 2. Obviously, this is really late for Craven, but plenty of other 2s are perfectly fine here. Then finally, you go Arrow and Ghost Spider, which is really nice. You can use Arrow to pull things to a lane that you either already won or don't care about, and then you can Ghost Spider for 10 power on a lane to pull that away, or you Heimdall. And when Heimdall moves the 4 cards from the with Craven, that Craven just shoots up in power. It's 4, 6, 8, right? For the 3 cards that are in Craven's lane, and then assuming you got another, it's 10. If there's any other move happening, like if you got a Spider-Man off, if you got an arrow off, it gets 12, 14, and then you have all the other cards that have power in that lane, and it's amazing. And then you're just like moving Vision so that it's not affected, right? Like, and the Vision just wins the lane. You need to try this deck. It's completely nuts. It's the best pure move deck I've played in ages, right? Like I don't consider the biz like Heimdall move. It's not like Silky's move, although like maybe I want to test this some more before I say that, but like maybe I wouldn't be completely shocked. Um Fair warning, if you're adding Elsa, spoiler, guess who's adding Elsa? Me, because I think Elsa with Jeff, Elsa with Hulkbuster, Elsa with Ghost Spider in the deck is going to be completely sick. Elsa with Spider-Man, etc., is going to be sick. I should be able to trigger it 2 or 3 times. It changes the play patterns, but like Mobius is nice, but not like super needed. I'm going to add Elsa, and then I'm going to then in addition to the Craven plan, I can fill a location with Jeff. I can fill it with Hulkbuster. It's going to get the +3 as soon as it triggers, and then merge, leaving an extra spot. I can Spider-Man to fill a lane, and then let that be an 8. I can Captain Marvel to fill a lane, let that be an 8 that moves. I can use Arrow to sort of like mess them up when they try and fill a lane. It seems like this is going to be really, 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 really good with Elsa. I'm all about this deck. Quick variant talk that we haven't talked about. This is the most Craven-y Craven. It's the best. We've got our hip count at a lowly 2, but we can add our hip nebula. I just decided that I'd rather throw in the Spotlight Nebula. I love the little rainbow. It's adorable. This is the Season Pass Ghost Spider. I didn't want to use the Season Pass Spider-Man that you saw on the thumbnail, so I threw the Twitch drop Spider-Man. Best Shuri, decent Captain Marvel, not the best thing I've ever seen, but I'm satisfied with it. I actually like it a fair amount with the Spider-Man that comes. I have like 3 arrows. This is my favorite. I like the way her arm animates. This vision sucks, but this is like the best time doll. It's why I didn't buy that bundle when it came up because it's unbelievable. Also, pretty damn good Hulkbuster, if I do say so myself. I'm very happy with the variants. I'm very happy with the deck. You'll note, as I prefer, we have no base art in this deck. So let's go. Try this one out. I don't think you'll be disappointed once you get the hang of it. All right, hopefully, if you watched that long, you hit that sub button. We really appreciate the support. As always, we'll be back tomorrow with another Snap Take. We're recording the podcast tonight. We've got Interrobang and Prashan coming on the cast to talk about the new season, new cards, and everything else. If you'd like to hear my review of those right now, you can check yesterday afternoon's video. We, as always, greatly appreciate you. Peace.